Your trusted connectivity partner, Telkom Business, proudly brings you the Entrepreneurial SME Show.
South Africa is grappling with a huge unemployment crisis, and the widely held belief is that entrepreneurship is a cure-all solution for this. Is that a fact? Welcome to the Entrepreneurial SME. I am Rams Mabote. This week we investigate in this debate with my expert guests, Dr. Corrin Varady, education analyst and CEO of Idea Digital Education, as well as Matshepo Koape, Senior Business Development Manager at GIBS Entrepreneurship Development Academy. Good evening to the both of you, and thank you very much for your time. Now, I'm going to start with you, Corrin. Is that a fact? Is entrepreneurship the panacea?
I don't think it's the panacea. I think that we need to know that it's an absolute driver and will be a future driver of our economy, particularly as we look at global and digital economies. We know that SMEs are so critical to our economy. I think I put a caveat in there because I just want to make sure that we don't believe that entrepreneurship means that it is necessarily undermining working for a business, because we actually know that the entrepreneurial mindset can actually be also about having great employees that contribute to organizations and therefore also to economies. The other reason that sometimes it's a challenge about whether this is the silver bullet or not is how much of our population are actually ready to undertake entrepreneurship, and not just for formal entrepreneurship education, but fundamentally their foundational basic education skills are going to enable them to be able to engage with an environment. There are programs that are working out there that are fantastic, but I do think that we need to take it with some caution that we think that this is the silver bullet solution to the economy. That doesn't undermine that SMEs don't play a critical role in how we see the future of our economy.
Matshepo, you at GIBS just released a study in July, Township Entrepreneurial Ecosystem, the entrepreneurs' lived experiences. Who are we speaking about? I'll tell you why I'm asking this question. Are we also including the informal sector? Are they also entrepreneurs?
So we're talking about entrepreneurs within the township economy that is largely informal. So yes, we're talking about those that haven't formalized their businesses and are looking to formalize. And so we took on a perspective that we are not going to assume what entrepreneurs in the township economy need insofar as access to skills, access to resources, and initiatives like ourselves when we go into in a development capacity or capability perspective. We didn't want to assume. We found in our study that there is existing ecosystems within the township, albeit informal, but they exist. So we took on a bottom-up approach instead of a top-down approach in terms of informing our initiatives by looking at existing pathways and activities that are currently happening in the township, and really just overlaying it with our intervention in order to amplify the effects of the initiative.
The argument about informal trade is that most of the people in that space are doing it for sustenance, unlike what you would call a business person who's going to grow something and employ other people and build into the economy. And I know that you were doing bottom up and not top down. Does that not confuse who an entrepreneur is?
No, so I think entrepreneurs are really, by their very nature, people that identify opportunities and then look at solutions, how to solve. And so with our research, we also found that the community embeddedness is very important. And where you find that there might be traders or people that start informal, but once they are assisted towards the path of formalizing, they then start to even think about their businesses differently. My colleague mentioned entrepreneurial mindset. Again, when you're starting from necessity and sustenance, you're not thinking that you are an entrepreneur. You don't identify yourself as an entrepreneur. And so when we then empower the participants or the entrepreneurs with a mindset that says you are an entrepreneur, you can identify, it then opens up a whole world of opportunity, and then they're able then to look at how do I exploit this opportunity and what are the things that I need to put in my business in order to move towards operating systems that work, and also how do I formalize my business.
And Corrin, what are those? What are those skills that they need? I mean, we told the South African National Development Plan says 90% of new jobs must be created through entrepreneurship by 2030. So what are these particular skills that entrepreneurs need to have to get to that level?
I mean, I think statistics like that are a real challenge because we set ourselves bars, and then if we don't feel that we've completed on them, we then challenge ourselves as to whether we've been successful or not. I think Matshepo is right when we talk about the definition of entrepreneurs, because skills then and how we plug into those and how we define entrepreneurs, they aren't all people who need to be in the formal economy or to sit in offices in the main cities of our country. They can be rural, they can be actually motivated by their pure passion and problem-solving skills. I do think that, in building foundational skills and making sure that through our education system in the basic education, and not just leaving it to vocational and higher education and assuming, well, that's where entrepreneurship education occurs simply and only, we can be seeing how practical application of subjects, whether it's in the social sciences, whether it's in science, mathematics, the cognitive functions that I think a generation need for us to be able to see how do we solve those problems. Because once we start to define that a problem solver is an entrepreneur, and I agree with that entirely, then we can say, well, actually, how do we then unpack and go backwards to looking at that skills is not just simply about how do you run a balance sheet or how do you put financials together or how do you raise capital, but really also about how do you apply methodology of problem solving? How do we look at creative and critical thinking? How do we use science and scientific methodology to solve for some of these problems? So it doesn't always need to be this formal education around business that entrepreneurs always need. They definitely need support, though, in that basic education space where we can develop that over a period of time in a formative space and make sure that our brains are thinking in that idea of how do we solve issues in society and for individuals in their own communities.
And where is that support going to come from?
Look, it's there. That's the problem. We're not connecting the pieces. The basic education curriculum, and everybody's saying we need to reform the curriculum because we need to make it always more practical. Science, mathematics, English, languages, social sciences, they're there in the curriculum. We can be undertaking a whole range of tools that already exist in the basic education space and showing students how do we connect it. We can be looking at how do we connect natural sciences and life sciences curriculum to projects that students can do in their community that can save and that may be able to be environmentally impactful and also then can help them to kind of sustain themselves as an entrepreneur. I think we need to accept that it's not always about the concept of formal education that has to happen at a higher adult space, but actually it's already there. We just have to now start bringing the dots together and painting a different picture for a young person when they're engaging with the labor market.
Okay, we're going to take a short break and we come back and talk about how we can support them. Don't touch that dial. We shall be back very shortly.